In this lesson, we'll be discussing pruning trees in the urban landscape. Before we get into pruning, it is important that you have the right tools. For your smallest pruning cuts, it's important to have a pair of hand pruners. These cuts are good for branches between 1/4 of an inch to a maximum of about 1 inch in diameter. A good pair of hand pruners should be crossing pruners, something like these right here. You want to avoid the anvil type that crush woody tissue. These are bypass cutters, and they work the best for pruning small branches. Now, if you're going to cut branches that are a little bit larger, you'll want to move to a pair of loppers. These are good for branches between 1 inch to 2 inches in diameter. Once again, they're bypass cutters. They're not the anvil type that crush the limbs and can lead to pulling bark and bark ripping. Finally, for some of your larger cuts of 1 inch to much larger cuts, a good handsaw is ideal. This is an example of a good handsaw. These saws are very, very sharp. They cut very, very quickly, and they cut primarily on the pulling motion. So now let's talk about doing what is called a removal cut. That is a type of pruning where you remove a branch back to its point of origin or back to its parent branch. Now, before you remove a branch, it's important to be able to identify the branch collar. The branch collar is a specialized type of woody tissue where the branch meets the stem of the tree or another branch. The branch collar is normally a swollen area of overlapping woody tissues that anchors branches very well to the main branch. You want to avoid cutting into the branch collar, but rather you want to cut right outside the branch collar. Ideally, after you have made a proper cut, your pruning cut should be fairly close to round. If you have long or oblong cuts, you have more than likely cut into the branch collar. Cutting into the branch collar does a couple things. First, it allows for larger wounds that is more difficult for the tree to seal over. Secondly, the branch collar is a specialized woody tissue that works very well to keep decay from moving inside the tree and causing problems down the road for that tree. So now, if you'll look at this tree, I have showed you roughly where the branch collar is on this tree. You see the bark ridge, which is the point at which the two woody tissues from the branch meet the stem and they push up against each other, causing the bark ridge. Now, when we're cutting a branch, we want to prune perpendicularly down from that bark ridge, and in some trees you will be able to see the branch collar prominently. In this species, it's a little more difficult to see. So now let's make the cut. And that is an example of a proper pruning cut on this tree. This tree will very quickly, within about 1 to 2 years, be able to seal over this wound. And that concludes how to do a removal cut.